Welcome to your weekly program, Bilahdan, a show with an accent for those without one. I know in this country we have a Black History Month, but what happened the rest of the year? I think Black history has been ignored and neglected and, misrepresented. And someone once said history is written by assassins, by people who are winning, and usually just whites, and that's why blacks and black history was a side notes and footnotes and all of this. So can you imagine when black history comes to a respective and look at the respective of the world and the history of the world through blacks' eyes and blackness? We have a guest today that is really the wants to bring a black awakening and blackness and black history to the forefront. And we have Lester, a journalist and author and ordained minister, and also works with Jesse Jackson with his Bush Foundation.
That was Operation Push quite a few years ago.
Oh my God, an Arab saying operation, that's okay. Scary a little bit. We don't do operation. Okay, welcome to Bilahdan, Les, and it's been a while since we met to talk, and you write a lot. You have your own blog, and you have developing a new television show. So obviously you have something you want to share with other people. Tell us a little bit, what are we missing here as far looking at history?
Well, thanks so much for having me on, Ahmed. I think because of colonialism, the history has been told from a European perspective for so long that people just take it for granted that that's history. And when I was looking at television at the Jerusalem issue, where
especially
Trump,
now,
he's making Israel, Jerusalem, the capital. I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if the Arab world would look at it from a new paradigm and say, we don't have to be nominal white people. We live in this buffer zone, Africa to the south, Europe to the north, Asia to the east, and maybe they should look at themselves, I feel, as the future of the world. They're saying that most people will look like Arabs or Greeks or Spanish or Italian or Indians in the future. And so I thought about this picture of the Hebrews, and I'm just going to get right into this. A lot of people, they don't want to hear. And interestingly, I was talking to a teacher.
You can say anything right here.
Thank you so much. I work in the St. Paul public school system, and I was talking with a Jewish guy today, and he agreed with me 100%. And I was showing him the picture of the Hebrew relief on the walls of the Syrian palace. And the guys had hair like mine,
Yes.
And if you look on my blog, Lester's Chronicle, you'll see how the Assyrians looked and how the Hebrews looked, and they were black folks. And I think that when we talk about Israel, we need to look at where they really came from, and they were black people. And it looks like Ashkenazi are people who have been converted. And in fact, the Torah and the Bible in Genesis 10:3, that's called the Table of Nations, points out that Ashkenaz is from the lineage of Japheth, not from the lineage of Abraham. And this guy agreed with me 100% because Jewish people are not monolithic. Oh, yes.
A lot of conversion with the Jew. I mean,
centuries and centuries.
Yeah, and it's interesting always under how did Jew became white? When you call this majority.
And that's what I was thinking over the years. I thought that over time, Jews had become white. But when you look at the history of it, you see that these are people who have been converted.
Yes.
They're from the lineage of Japheth, the Ashkenazi. And then you've got the other group. I can't think of their name. There's a group.
The Middle Eastern.
I'll think of it in a minute.
Yes. But the same issue is Jesus. Jesus, is from the Middle East, from Bethlehem. The Middle Eastern is dark and probably curly hair and whatever, but now he looks like a Scandinavian tennis player.
Yes, right.
A white. So, are we talking about the color of skin, or are we talking about power?
Well, I think that whether you were black or white, the ones in power are the ones who are able to frame perspectives
That's it.
and
Decide what.
decide. And you got bad folks in all body colors.
Good, the bad, the ugly, yes.
I'm not against white folks. I
Yeah.
mean, you got bad black folks too. I'm against oppression.
Exactly.
Anytime there's oppression, I'm against that.
Yeah, and when you look at this paradigm that you're coming up with, that the Arabs in North Africa in the middle between, the white
yeah, sure.
European and the black in Africa, even in Islam, I think there is a verses in the Quran says, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةٌ وَسَطٌ. We have created you a people of centrist, somewhere in the middle, not
Interesting.
extremists. That's very big in our belief system. You being a centrist, you being, kind of looking at the both one, and even when I first came here, racism and being black it wasn't really a big. Even matter of fact, from movies, I was sided with the whites, John Wayne and all this.
That's right.
And I was against the Indians because they were, portrayed as savage. But when I came here, I found myself, I am the Indian, and then I've been discriminated against. But also, when I am with a white friend, he's open to me and talks to me about blacks. When I'm with black, he trusts me and talks about white. So I'm some way, as you say, somewhere in the middle, somewhere.
The Middle East?
Yes. What are obvious things to do. So, you wrote in your last blog that what if black history was merged with world history? What if?
That is what we've got to do. We've got to tell the truth. And being in the schools every day and seeing black youth, they're only getting popular culture. They're getting rap information, commercialism.
Basketball.
Yeah. But, if they saw themselves, the movie King Tut was showed on television just about 3 or 4 years ago. And King Tut, the Arabs arrived in Egypt in about 640 AD. In 1300 BC, King Tut was a chocolate black man. And our boys need to see this. Our girls need to see themselves as queens like Ankhesenamen. All those beautiful. I was in Egypt in 2011.
Oh.
Man, those are some. Oh my God, those are some beautiful paintings on those walls.
And so, when you're talking about the relationship between power and race, and we tend to hear in this country to racialize everything, and then now with what's happening with the police brutality and all this Black Lives Matter and all of that, are they hitting on the head this Black Lives Matter as far as the idea of racism? Is this what you're talking about, or is this much bigger than that?
Right. When I talk with Black Lives Matter people, I try to point out that we need to get at the root of the situation. Why does the average white police officer have this imagery in his mind? And a lot of times, just going even further, Western society traditionally has used Machiavellian tactics, and that's meaning propaganda, surveillance, misinformation, denial of the truth, and just misappropriation of the facts. And so the average person, when they pick up history books or they're watching these movies, they're getting a very negative image of blacks. And as a teenager at 18 years old, I realized that there was a cultural negativity being spewed about me as a young black man. And I could walk by as a young black man, especially if I have a skull cap on, and I'm out in this wintertime, it's cold, okay? But an older lady will get that person and hug it because, hey, these little black boys will rob you or whatever, which is, It's just.
And this is the daily life. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what you see and experience and every day. And
And I was in a middle class neighborhood in Chicago, southeast side, on the lake.
the majority of blacks there in
yeah.
that town. Race is a made-up concept or construct by whites when they first came here to divide poor white from poor black. So we created race to tell the poor white that you are better than the poor black. So they will not join force to fight this white mass. So it is a made-up modern things, But when you talk about history and the Assyrians, and you talk about the Israelis and the Egyptian, you talk about 7,000 years and beyond that. Why did it persist until today?
Well, I tell people cultures and societies are like sports teams. You're going to have some groups. If you think about the Middle East, Syria, Babylon, Sumer, all of those areas in Mesopotamia, some were in charge for 300 years, 500 years, 700 years. I think the Moors were dominant in Spain for 700 years.
Yeah.
And so this is just a natural part of humanity. But now I believe as we're moving forward, they're saying computers are going to be smarter than us by 2040,
We have
45.
smartphones.
Yeah, we got smartphones already. I
Dumb
was talking to this Jewish guy today. We were talking like you and I are talking now, and my smartphone, certainly the light came on. And I'm saying, now wait a minute. We laugh because are these people, somebody taking a picture of us or something like that? So I think we're going to have to band together here because
The funniest thing, you're talking to a Jewish person.
Yeah,
Be aware.
yeah. Thing listen, knows when to listen to you. Comes on all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, Google knows everything now.
Yeah.
I don't go to mosque and ask for guidance anymore. I just Google it.
That's the truth.
Ayatollah
Anything you
Google.
need.
Ayatollah Google has the answer. When I want to find out if Ramadan's today or tomorrow, I just Google it.
Just Google it. And now with mine, I just ask it. I said, where is so-and-so? I couldn't find your page the other night. I need to send you that information.
Yeah.
I said, give me Agma.
He knows.
Your page came up.
Really?
He says, here's what we can find. There it was.
So Google doesn't discriminate against me.
No, it does not.
He's a good guy.
You're all over there.
It's good. How about you're talking about how we learn culture that demonize blacks and demonize non-white or color, we'll call them color people, and then you have power is contributing that literature and books and on all of the things comes to perpetuate this in movies and literature and school and police, the judicial system. I mean, it's all perpetuated on the. How about some people also from our black community themselves, they start adapting this white, and everybody wants to be black, everybody wants to adapt to black culture. That's also, there is some of that.
And I try to tell people, institutional racism, in many ways, is like Coca-Cola promoting advertising. I mean, Coca-Cola is all over the globe. And
Coke is it.
Coke is it, and so these propaganda machines are just like Coca-Cola. They're penetrating market segments. You're in TV, market segmentation. What's that demographic?
Yeah, exactly.
And so the average 14-year-old, they don't know that.
Yeah.
And so they see a billboard.
White is it.
And they see a picture, and then you got some people, they know it's easier to be white. I think I like how I look. People like how they look, but. When the
your
settlers,
life would be much easier if you were white.
When the settlers came from Europe, the European settlers in what's that island? Ellis Island.
Yeah.
They started changing their name.
Yeah.
Whatever sounds more English, you see. And then, black people weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
But we're in a place, black is beautiful. We know this, you see. But a little 12-year-old girl who's in school and she's getting negative information and she's the only girl in there.
White in her skin.
And all of them are white. Then she figures, wow, she would be better. I remember my wife said she was in a private school growing up. And she said, the white girls were saying, well, I'm from Ireland and I'm from She said, well, where am I from?
Brazilian.
Everybody had an identity
You know,
besides America. And all she could see was the negative imagery.
Yeah. And you don't
The
blame her.
Tarzan,
You're going to survive.
The bones coming out of their nose. It's nothing wrong with tribal societies, but you know, you had the Gauls in Europe, or the Celts, you have Anu, and you've always had tribal
you
societies.
respect each other.
But it was taught when we were growing up as if Africans were eternally tribal.
You know, I know we're talking about more complicated and more serious issue than a policeman that beats up a black kid that is holding a cellular phone, or you know. And we're talking about how our history is written and how our history is taught in schools and all of this. And where do we go from here? How do you fight all of this?
I'm talking with Twin Cities Solidarity. I had the opportunity to do a PowerPoint presentation for them in February. And what I discussed with one of the members, I've got her number, and I'm going to talk with some others, we really need to do a march on the Department of Education. And also, when this new presidential election comes forth, we want to make sure that they have on the ballot or part of their campaign platform that we're going to ensure that the full history of the black man is merged with world history, and anything less than that is just asinine.
Now, I can't believe we've been talking for 15 minutes now. We haven't mentioned Trump. Isn't that what's wrong with me?
He gets enough news, doesn't he? He's taken over the airwaves.
But this guy, we can say all we can about this guy. It's a clown in a circus, political circus in the White House. But the only thing I can say about this guy, that he exposes everybody. So racism and Islamophobia and inequality and white nationalism and evangelical craziness, it's been there. He just made it a mainstream. He brought it up there.
You know why?
It's out there and it's normalizing it.
He thinks like a fifth grader. A 12-year-old or an 11-year-old, he looks around and finds something negative so he can pick on people. And that's what he's exploiting. He's exploiting people's shortcomings.
But how about the people who support him and people who speaks his language? Tribal land and Trump land and tribalism. This is a huge segment of the society. They bought into this, and they are there. So what I'm saying, I think it is wonderful that you bring this issue out there and you put it on the table. You're not saying blacks are superior.
No.
And you're not making the same mistake that the whites are doing, the white superiority and white. You know, you're saying blacks have history, let's look into it. Maybe we'll learn something. And tell us a little bit about and I have 1 minute left here, The Awakening of Khufu. What was the premises of that novel?
Thank you so much. More schools are looking to my book, and I think it has taken a while for people to settle to get it. It's a metaphor for the awakening of the people. It also gives people a scientific perspectives on things. And if you're familiar with Ray Kurzweil, he's the chief engineer of Google, and what they're saying is that in the next 30, 40 years from now, and I'm going a little stretch here, that they may be able to get people's DNA and bring them back, like bringing back the woolly mammoth and all that. So I thought I would put that scientific information out there so the kids would get that scientific part.
I see.
And meanwhile, look at the mind of Khufu as he's looking at the timeline that has brought us to where we are here in 2018.
As a witness of all these years.
Right. So it's dealing with black history, but it's dealing with some deeper concerns as well.
Les, wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Very thoughtful. Good luck with your endeavor and wish you well with your new adventure. And we'll see you. I'm sure we can do things together.
I'm looking forward to it, in fact.
Les Lester is a journalist and author, and also he was an ordained minister, works with Jesse Jackson with Operation Bush talking about black history and how we can benefit from delving into black history and incorporate it in our history altogether, enriching our history by looking into black history. You know.